A very good evening from the KTN News Center. It is the 2nd day of June 2015, just in time for KTN Prime. We have the latest for you, from new traffic directions from the Chief Justice to new developments at the World Football Governing Body, FIFA. Also tonight on KTN Prime, we will be focusing on the new NHIF rates. And to help us understand what is going on, we will be speaking to NHIF Secretary General Wilson Sossion, who's already in studio with us to help us understand some of their concerns with the new rates and if indeed there is a way forward. You're watching KTN Prime. We thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at our top stories tonight.
For us to feel now that we are really protected, we want to see security everywhere in the school compound.
It's only the Senate which can decide.
Reopen the college for those who are willing. Garissa University students plead. Find them instead of jailing them. Mtunga gives orders to speed up traffic cases.
Sisi tuko katika hatari na haya maji, manake mvua ikiendelea kuzidi, maji yataendelea kupanda kwa wananchi.
Village underwater. Kwale residents blame mining companies for submerged village.
If the current rates were reviewed in 1989 and they have never been varied in 2015, then it means we have lost direction.
And NHIF bosses meet with the unions to resolve standoff over new rates. Thank you for joining us. Marisha Witi is our sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen. Welcome to the program. We start from Garissa now. Today marks 2 months since the shocking terror attack on the Garissa University College. And today a section of the students who were there went to the college and pleaded with the principal to consider reopening it for the sake of those who are willing to go back. KTN's Wilson Mburu begins our coverage tonight.
It's exactly 2 months since terrorists attacked the Garissa University College and brutally murdered 147 students. This led to the university's closure and some students being absorbed into the Moi University campus in Eldoret. However, some students believe it's time to reopen the institution. Sophia Marango, a third-year student at the university, makes her way into the institution in a bid to try and convince the administration to allow them to continue with their studies, albeit with some conditions.
Lakini, we want to be seeing security rights left and center. Whether it's the station that will be here, ama ni polisi watakuwa kwa uwanja tukifanya mtihani, or when we continue with our studies. For us to feel now that we are really protected, we want to see security everywhere in the school compound.
Our fear is losing the semester because our comrades, the regular students, they were absorbed in the main campus.
The students' plea comes barely a week after it was announced that 95 schools had been shut down in northeastern province due to persistent terror attacks. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor Jacob Kaimenyi, while appearing before the Senate's Committee on Education, said at least 12 primary and 83 secondary schools had been affected in Mandera, Wajir and Garissa. Area leaders, however, decried the closure of the institutions, claiming it would only worsen the situation in the region.
It is not proper for us to have generation of uneducated youth, and therefore everything must be done to make sure that the children get their education.
Tumekuwa hatuelewi msimamo wa usimamizi wa chuo kikuu cha Moi kimetuelekeza wapi.
For students like Sophia and her comrades, however, the wait continues, since only the University Senate can make the decision to reopen the institution, and that directive will have to come from the Education Ministry. Wilson Mburu, KTN Prime.
All right, you're watching KTN Prime. We base our big story tonight on that story. We're asking you, should the Garissa University College be reopened for those who are willing to go back? Indeed, tell us what you think. SMS your yes, no opinion to the number 22155. That is our SMS line. You can join that conversation on social media, on Twitter at Ben_Kitili, at Linda Ogutu, and at KTN Kenya. Shall be sampling some of your views during this live newscast. Indeed. Let's now switch gears to matters traffic rules and regulations, and it's about new regulations directed by Chief Justice Dr. William Mutunga concerning the delays that have been brought about by the cases that have been ongoing. These are regulations, directions given out to courts across the country to be able to expedite traffic cases across the country. Straight to them, traffic courts shall process the payment of traffic fines in an open court. The respective heads of stations. This has been the challenge for many stations, but the directions say the head of stations shall ensure that adequate facilities are accorded to accused persons. To the next one. No accused persons in traffic cases will be locked up in cells without first being granted time, place and adequate facilities to pay their fines and bail. The third one, it shall be the responsibility of every, again, head of stations and presiding trial magistrate to fight corruption and cartels in court corridors, courtrooms as well as court cells. There has been a lot of concerns coming from Kenyans of underhand dealings in these traffic cases as well as out of courts, so to speak. This circular shall be implemented immediately, and failure to comply will attract sanctions. The CJ has also directed Kenyans to help implement this particular circular. Now, in addition to those regulations, the CJ will tomorrow, the 3rd of June 2015, meet with the Inspector General of Police, Joseph Boynet, to take a look at recommendations, to consider recommendations that have been brought about by concerns again from Kenyans from arbitrary arrests that have been ongoing from the traffic offences. All suspects, traffic offenders, in respect of offences punishable by fine only or punishable by imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months shall not be held in police custody. This is, of course, amending Section 49 of the Constitution. All other suspected traffic offenders, these are the ones that are not to be imprisoned for a period of not exceeding 6 months, shall be expeditiously released, reasonable bail or bond conditions, pending charge or trial unless there is compelling reasons certified as such. Let's now take a look at this in detail. Once a suspected traffic offender has been identified, it shall be issued with a notification to attend court and NTAC to be able to attend court on a convenient date within 7 days. Now, on that charge shall clearly state the charges preferred against this particular suspected offender, and if the offender have been issued with that does not appear in court, the prosecution shall be able to terminate that within 3 months. The offender has to appear in court within 3 months. Now, only when the traffic offender is unable to pay the fines, cash bail after the reasonable time and facilities will her or his committed a warrant be processed and handed over to prison for admission into custody. These, of course, coming from concerns from Kenyans. The CJ recommending this shall be meeting the Inspector General of Police tomorrow, and if only the traffic offender is unable to pay the fines, all of that is when a person shall be able to be committed in prison for that period not exceeding 6 months. Of course, we shall be keeping an eye on this. Those recommendations from the CJ to the Inspector General of Police tomorrow. We shall be able to see what happens if the police act on them. Now, let's switch gears to some breaking news from Switzerland, and the weight of corrupt dealings at the House of the World Football Governing Body FIFA has floored its president, Sepp Blatter. Now, Blatter announced this evening that he is going to resign less than a week after he was elected into office. The 79-year-old Swiss announced in Zurich that an extraordinary Congress of FIFA will be convened to elect a new president. Blatter defeated Prince Ali of Jordan during the polls last week on Friday. FIFA has been at the epicenter of corruption claims that resulted in the arrest of 7 senior officials. FIFA was rocked last week by the arrests on charges of racketeering, wire fraud and money laundering as part of a U.S. prosecution that also indicted 14 other people. A separate criminal investigation by Swiss authorities into the 2018 and 2022 World Cups were allocated is also underway.
What good is what you've got if you're not having any fun?
I promise you, in the end of my term, I will give this FIFA to my successor in a very, very strong position, a robust FIFA and a good FIFA. We have to work together.
Let's bring you back home, and our focus is at the coast. A humanitarian crisis is looming at a village in Kwale County following heavy flooding, which residents say can only be blamed on the rains. Remember, about 2 weeks ago, the Meteorological Department had issued a warning on rains in that region. Francis Ontomo has been following this story for us. Let's see what he has.
Last night's voracious acts of nature left Vumbu village Msambweni in utter devastation. When morning broke, scores of families are left with no option but to flee the submerged section of the setting. The residents knowing only too well that the sooner they get out of this place, the better.
Roho ziko juu mpaka dakika hii, tokea asubuhi hatujakula kwa kumenyesha mvua jana tu, na leo mambo yameharibika kabisa, yakachafuka mpaka ikabidi saa 12 tuamshane kwa simu zikiwa wazi, tukaokoa wenzetu watatu waliokuwa wakitaka kusombwa na hayo maji.
Sisi tuko katika hatari na haya maji, maanake mvua ikiendelea kuzidi, maji yataendelea kupanda kwa wananchi, maanake sehemu kubwa maji yanaingia kwa wananchi.
For Vumbu, the flooding is associated with the existence of two private companies, Kwale International Sugar Company Limited and mining firm based Titanium. The two set up two dams on opposite sides to tap water for their usage. But that venture is now reason for the current humid scheme of things. Sandwiched deep in valley, Vumbu village will find itself helpless as it looks. When it surges, that becomes the result, a scenario that is setting stage for a shattering conflict.
Asa kijiji cha Vumbu, sisi wenyeji hatukuuzishwa kwenye kuulizwa hii damu inajengwa, na kwa sababu kuna ile kitu tunaita environmental impact assessment, hatukuhusishwa kabisa watu wa Vumbu.
The two investors, Base Titanium and Kiscol, both of them are doing activities that will spur the economic growth of our county. But as you already see, we have a problem. We have a dam on this side, we have also a dam on this side. And my point is that whenever we are putting up these structures, we should do a complete assessment such that we don't put the lives of people at risk.
As the scenes from the past come to haunt, the scales, it appears, are now falling from the eyes of the leadership.
Kama wakati wa planning yao wangeweza kuweka disaster management measures in place. Hii leo tusingekuwa tuko hapa tukishughulika na haya maneno. Maana ingekuwa ile maji yanatembea.
Sandwiching the village between two large dams when issues of resettlement, the issues of relocation and compensation have not been finalized is a big risk.
And the blame game begins even as over 100 residents close the day without somewhere to sleep or food to sustain them. The vexing flood menace here in Vumbu area puts the county government of Kwale now walking on a tightrope, that of protecting investor interests and the welfare of the people. Francis Ontomo, KTN, Kwale.
Massive rains on the coast, more than 100 people displaced in the south coast. Francis Ontomo will continue to keep an eye on that for you now. An umbrella body of Kenyan trade unions has asked the National Hospital Insurance Fund, NHIF, to revoke the Gazette notice introducing the new NHIF rates. The Trade Unions Congress wants NHIF to adopt recommendations that they have given before implementing the new act. KTN's Sharon Momanyi reports.
The new NHIF rates, gazetted in February and implemented from April, have been a bone of contention, pitting the state corporation against trade unions and private health providers. The Trade Unions Congress of Kenya, an alliance of various public service trade unions in various job categories, on Tuesday met NHIF officials for a tete-a-tete on the matter.
If the current rates were reviewed in 1989, and they have never been varied in 2015, then it means we have lost direction in sustaining the fund. We cannot engage in war at this time.
The Union's Congress recommends that NHIF revokes the February 6 Gazette notice pending the determination of contentious issues. Issues that they say include contributions, which they say should be a variable pegged at 1.5% of the employee's basic pay. They also want the government to pay twice the member's contribution at 3% of each member's contribution.
Percentage provides equity, Percentage provides fairness to the fund. If the current rates were reviewed in 1989 and they have never been varied in 2015, then it means we have lost direction in sustaining the fund.
The Congress also wants NHIF to be among other health insurance schemes to, quote, encourage competition and quality service delivery, end of quote. They want the Act to be amended to provide for exemption of existing schemes, further calling for hospitals, clinics and healthcare centers providing healthcare services for NHIF beneficiaries to be properly equipped before the implementation of the Act.
The board of NHIF will discuss all these issues and come to a quick conclusions so that Kenyans continue to have universal health care.
Their recommendations come with an ultimatum.
We do not expect government to play Abunuazism on this matter. No. They should look at these issues, bring them back to us with the view of agreeing. Failure of which, in case of disagreement, to proceed and issue a general strike notice in accordance with the law.
Sharon Momanyi, KTN.
You're watching KTN Prime. We thank you for staying with us. Let's stay with that story by Sharon Momanyi and focus on the Super Bowl, because this Super Bowl illustrates some of the rates that Kenyans have been paying since April this year to the National Hospital Insurance Fund. If you're earning 5,999 and below, you end up paying 150 shillings. If you're earning between 12,000 and 14,999, you're paying NHIF 500 shillings. Let's look at the other board. If you're earning between 20,000 to about 24,000, you're paying 750, and if you're earning 100,000 and above, then you end up paying NHIF 1,700 shillings per month. Now, these amounts have raised a lot of concern because initially Kenyans were paying 320 per month. That has been since 1988 when the rates were last reviewed. In studio, I have Wilson Sosion. He is the Nurse Secretary General, but for purposes of this discussion, he is the Trade Unions Congress Chairman. We'd like to let you know that we invited a representative from NHIF. They declined our invite. Mr. Sosion, thank you for joining us on KTN Prime. What are your concerns with the new NHIF rates?
Yeah, thank you. The new NHIF rates, one, are unconstitutional because the Kenya Constitution, Section 10, provides for public consultation on matters of policies and governance, and therefore the new rate does not meet the constitutional threshold because the fund did not consult the critical stakeholders exhaustively. That is one. Two, we raised a lot of reservations when these proposals came up because the rates as it is through the banding process exploits the middle income earners, and the middle income earners, who number about close to 500 to 1 million, are expected to finance the health care of 43 million Kenyans. That includes the rich and also the poor. And we think here there is no equity, and it does not comply with the spirit of social solidarity, which is within the insurance policy. That is why we recommended 5 amendments.
So the middle income earners, teachers, most teachers fall into this category?
Teachers, civil servants, the servicemen, the armed forces, and the rest of the workers will be easy targets and soft targets of this program to raise money to finance Medicare of the rich, guys earning huge salaries or in big businesses, but they are paying a maximum of 1,700, and also targeting the low-income earners, the self-employed. The poor will heavily rely on the payroll workers.
Okay, Mr. Sosion, here's the thing. The unions are threatening strike if this is not resolved, but allow me to take you back just a little bit to what you said. In other words, you're saying that these new rates were implemented without consulting the different trade unions.
Indeed, I can confess that the Trade Union Congress of Kenya, which brings together many unions, majority of whom are in the public service and who finance up to 80% of the total income of NHIF were not consulted. We did not complete consultations. We were invited by NHIF to a meeting in Naivasha, and we agreed to convene again after 1 week to progress the consultations, because we had given recommendations that we think will help the fund, and the fund will not need to come back to us again, especially when you peg contributions on percentage. There will be equity across the board, and also considering the fact that government has never contributed even a single cent to the fund, and is a standard practice the world over that when workers contribute a certain percentage, the government must match that contribution by double the figure. That is why we've recommended 3%.
Okay, just hold on. So what happened to the consultations?
We were shortchanged by the fund. They unilaterally decided to proceed and gazette the rates, which we've contested since the date of the gazettement of 6th of February. And when we threatened the different affiliates of Trade Union Congress, whom you know too well, that when they pronounce strikes, they mean it. When all the affiliates issued the notices, and the NHIF decided to engage us, and that is why we were in a meeting today, and today could have been the commencement of those industrial actions, and therefore we decided to set aside that agenda, and as TUC we were engaged in a meeting today, and we made our issues very clear that one, revoke the gazette notice so that we can sanitize the environment of negotiations, and we get down to quick negotiations and agreements so that the NHIF can then proceed and gazette new rates. We are not saying NHIF should proceed and continue levying 320 shillings. We know they cannot do most of the services, but we are saying let us sit and negotiate and agree on rates that are acceptable to workers, that's affordable to workers. You know too well, salaries have been frozen. SRC is very busy freezing negotiations for new terms, whereas government is pushing very hard for us to pay more in the social schemes and the other sectors, other areas. But then we are saying, let us sit down and negotiate. And so we have recommended very strongly, one, that we shall accept percentage. And percentage will provide equity. And we've recommended
what percentage are we looking at?
Now we've recommended 1.5%, and actually that is sufficient money. It's several billions above what was being raised at 320. That is one, considering the inflation and the economic challenges that workers are facing, and that salaries have not been reviewed. It's completely and grossly unfair to adopt the new rates that were gazetted. That is why we've insisted it must be gazetted, and then work on percentage. That's 1.5%, and then also proceed and consider exemption of superior schemes that other workers are enjoying in the various employers level. NHIF must also recognize existence of other schemes. What we are talking about here is that there must be harmony between superior comprehensive schemes run by employers at the employers level, and also we must also give a lifeline to the fund, but not at exorbitant approach as it was before. And also government must put in their part of the contribution as well, so that eventually the fund should also be able to support the indigents, the poor Kenyans who can't pay, who can't afford. Government should be able to pay for them.
Okay, I needed to clear something up for me. There is apparently an alternative medical scheme that teachers have gotten into with Aeon Minet. How far has that gone? What are the plans in it? What is going on with that plan?
It's already a sealed deal, because it's a product of collective bargaining process which we demanded, which we negotiated in the previous negotiations, and we all agreed, and that Teacher Service Commission should proceed and procure a group medical cover, comprehensive for teachers. and teachers will be able to access outpatient services, inpatient, international evacuation. It's comprehensive
Aren't those
as
the
it is,
same?
and therefore that has been absolutely concluded, and Teacher Service Commission has signed an agreement, a contract with the service provider through competitive bidding, which went through the normal tender procedures, and therefore it is being rolled out from 1st of July.
So in other words, Mr. Associate, what you're saying is that teachers will have NHIF and then they'll have this alternative cover as well by Aeon Minute.
NHIF is statutory deduction, and that has been made very clear even in our meetings today, that the new NHIF rates will not address the comprehensive medical cover. It is statutory deductions. That is going to breach the runaway cost of operations. Since the last time that the rates were reviewed was 1989, and of course inflation, the cost of medication and other things have really gone up. So these rates of NHIF are statutory. Every other Kenyan will pay, whether you have a superior medical scheme
or not.
It will be paid. But then the new scheme for teachers is a comprehensive cover that will see elaborate and comprehensive treatment of the contributors and their dependents. And this is not a new scheme. The bankers have got the superior and comprehensive scheme.
Everyone
and
has
all
their
other
own.
workers, different employers. So really, this is far and above what NHIF is providing. And there should be no confusion and there should be no contradiction. And we are urging all teachers everywhere within the country to register effectively and massively within the scheme, understand the scheme, understand their privileges and rights before the 1st of July. And from 1st of July, no teacher will spend any money to access medical care in whatever form. And teachers with chronic illnesses and complications that requires even international evacuations will be addressed. Teachers who travel around East Africa will be treated at designated hospitals within.
Wilson Sossion, NHIF Secretary General, for purposes of this discussion, is speaking to us as the Trade Unions Congress Chairman. Looking at the new NHIF rates and what indeed they mean for workers in the country, what are some of their grievances with the new rates? What plans do they have for workers in the country? And really, if there are alternative medical schemes that have been put up for workers in the country. We thank you for staying with KTN Prime. Let's remind you of our big question tonight. That big question is based on our first story that we had this evening, where some students of Garissa University College are pleading with the principal to consider reopening the college for the sake of those who are willing to go back. That forms the basis of our big question tonight. We're asking, should the Garissa University College be reopened for those who are willing to go back? That is our big question tonight. And if I may, if the director is willing to do this, I would like to pose this question back to Wilson Sossion. Wilson, you have students who are now saying Garissa University College should be reopened. You are on record telling teachers not to go back. The CS Education is on record saying 95 schools have been closed. What are your thoughts on the fact that some students want this college reopened?
I want to say accurately, we are aware that the students who were continuing with studies were relocated to Moi University. And indeed, at Moi University, there are some who could not settle, and they were relocated to other campuses. The new development needs to be audited properly. These could be stage-managed activities so that it looks like students are pressurizing yes, it could be some bit of mischief by people who want to force the reopening of Garissa University. Our position is that it's not yet time for the university to be reopened. Let the students proceed to the rest of the campuses. And if anything, we'll be pressurizing the Cabinet Secretary Education to also allow students who have not reported at Garissa Teachers College, a huge number, to move to other teacher training colleges, and lecturers who have not reported at Garissa Teachers Training College, and we hear they're due to undergo disciplinary process, to also be redeployed elsewhere. Nobody should be forced in the face of the threat to their very own life.
Okay.
We maintain our position.
All right, so should the Garissa University College be reopened for those who are willing to go back? Let us know what you think. Tweet us at KTN Kenya, at Linda Ogutu, at Ben_Kitile. This is a new development from Garissa. We'd love to know what you think. We're taking a short break. We'll be back.
Welcome back to the program. Suspended Transport Secretary Michael Kamau has been summoned to appear in court on Thursday over abuse of office charges. The High Court issued the summons after anti-corruption officers failed to find Kamau at his Lavington residence on 2 consecutive days. The EACC applied for the summons as its chief executive told the Senate Legal Affairs Committee that it was investigating 20 governors over corruption.
At the Milimani Law Court, 6 members of the tender committee in the Ministry of Transport appear before Senior Principal Magistrate Lawrence Mugambe. The 6 were to appear in court alongside suspended Cabinet Secretary Michael Kamau and 2 others who could not be traced at their homes by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission detectives. The EACC in its application told the court that detectives who wanted to arrest Kamau were unable to find him at his Lavington residence on Monday evening and Tuesday morning, and that his mobile phone has been switched off since the weekend. The court ordered Kamau to appear before it on Thursday to answer to abuse of office charges. As the High Court issued summonses against Kamau, the suspended Cabinet Secretary was seeking to stop his prosecution. Through lawyer Paul Njuguna, Kamau moved to court, arguing that the EACC has no commissioners and lacks the necessary quorum to recommend charges against him. High Court Judge Justice Mumbi Ngugi dismissed the application. Away from the courts, the resignation of EACC Commissioners Mumo Matemu, Irene Keino and Jane Onsongo has raised legal questions over the operations of the Commission, with some analysts arguing that the Secretariat cannot work in the absence of commissioners.
The Commission is an entity on its own. It's a body corporate. It's not about the absence or presence of some individuals within it, as identified in the law, that makes or renders it invalid or even useless when it comes to working.
Some very smart lawyer somewhere is waiting for you to do whatever you are doing, and in the end move to court and declare your work null and void.
The anti-graft body CEO, who last week forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecutions corruption files against suspended Cabinet Secretaries Michael Kamau, Charity Ngilu, Kazungu Kambi and Felix Koskei, says it has its eyes on more big fish, governors.
Others also whose cases are being prepared are nearly 20.
The EACC, which failed to beat the President's 60-day deadline to complete investigations into 124 corruption files, is now working towards completing more than half of the cases in the list of shame within its own self-imposed deadline of 1 month. Rita Tinina, KTN.
It is 2 months since the biggest terror attack on Kenyan soil since the 1998 bombing of the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi, and today a section of students from Garissa University College want the university reopened. And the big question we're asking, should the Garissa University College be reopened for those who are willing to go back?
Major_Mwangi says yes, it should. Closing it down will be a victory for Al-Shabaab.
Paul Mwani says no way, the security of Northeastern has not been guaranteed by the government and it has failed to protect the people of Northeastern.
At Linda Wino says first things first, security in the region has to be ensured and sustained.
Frida on Twitter says reopening is not the issue is security. Unless security is assured, I don't think it's wise.
Well, those are your opinions on our big question tonight, whether or not you think Garissa University College should be reopened as requested by some students. Keep tweeting us. We'll keep sampling your views during this bulletin. We're taking a short break. We'll be back with more news. All right, let's look at business news now. Players in the manufacturing sector have lauded the government's renewed commitment to source 40% of its goods and service locally. The manufacturers, however, want the government to fully implement the Public Procurement and Disposal Act in order to see full realization of this arrangement. KTN's Charles Gitonga sat down with the designated chief executive of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers to find out what it would take for the procurement quota to work. Listen.
My government shall in the new financial year
we shall ensure that we restrict, and strictly so, a minimum of 40% of all goods and services procured by government at all levels must be locally produced.
A rather not new promise by the president to the country's manufacturing sector, but one that is still exciting.
40% would make a big difference in terms of job creation and the growth of local industry. So we are very keen on this proposal because it is going to spark a manufacturing revolution in Kenya.
The directive to have government buy 40% of its requirements from local producers was first heard in policy circles in 2013, soon after the Jubilee administration came to power. However, implementation of the same has been faced with numerous challenges, among them ambiguity of the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, which at first failed to protect local manufacturers as intended.
The challenge with those regulations was the definition of local, because a local company importing goods would benefit from the same preference as a locally manufactured product. So the challenge has been that these regulations have not really given preference to locally manufactured goods.
But with the regulation in Parliament for fine-tuning and the President's renewed commitment, manufacturers remain optimistic that a 40% guaranteed market will improve the sector's productivity beyond the 11% contribution to the economy, along with job creation.
We are hopeful that this time the directive by the government will be taken up and that there will be an increase in the purchase of locally manufactured goods. There's a feeling in the fact that infrastructural projects could have more local content. For example, the building of railways, the building of roads, the expansion of the ports, the expansion of our power transmission. Those are different areas where we can really scale up the amount of local products that we buy.
Apart from infrastructure, manufacturers are also eyeing the opportunities in basic supplies such as office stationery, food and beverages, IT and textile, among others. The manufacturers, however, still want the government to do more towards improving the business environment in the country, a factor that they say will empower their competitiveness against regional and international peers. Charles Gitonga, KTN Business.
Not very good news now. Eveready East Africa Limited has registered a loss of 17.7 million shillings before tax for the 6 months period ended March 2015, compared to a pre-tax profit of 44.8 million shillings posted over the same period in 2014. The loss is attributable to the company's strategic decision to close down the Nakuru plant that saw revenue drop during that period. But as Philip Keitani reports, Eveready is on a new strategic path to diversify its portfolio to boost profits.
For Eveready, it's been a tough couple of years. Competition from cheaper battery imports practically killed its battery production business, leading to the closure of its plant in Nakuru last year. This saw the company's earnings drop 18% to 603 million shillings in the half-year period, ended March, compared to the 736 million shillings posted a year earlier. The company also exited key export markets due to unavailable business, further eroding the earnings. During the period, Eveready sank into further losses of 17.7 million shillings. The firm is, however, optimistic that diversification plans currently under implementation, together with the opportunities available in some of the existing product lines, will provide a growth momentum into the business and focus it on a path to profitability going forward. Eveready recently signed a joint partnership agreement with Orbit Chemicals to acquire 50% common equity in a company to be set up under the agreement for the purpose of pursuing common business interests. This could see Eveready venture into the personal car business in a move to boost income. It also ventured into making industrial light bulbs, fluorescent bulbs, and energy-efficient bulbs under its brand name Eveready, in a bid to expand its existing portfolio of batteries and shavers. Also on the cards is the introduction of a real estate arm, taking the company away from solely relying on battery sales for income. The business is also implementing a financial plan to ensure that the business is able to actualize its strategic plan and minimize the cost of financing. Eveready directors did not recommend payment of an interim dividend after its retained earnings fell into negative territory. Philip Keitani, KTN Business.
Pan-African insurer African Trade Insurance Agency has joined the billion-dollar club after recording $1.3 billion in exposure last year. The company posted 130 growth in profit of $3.4 billion, which is from $1.5 billion posted in 2013. The Pan-African insurer saw an increased uptake of its policies by banks constituting 80% of all insured risks and facilitating trade and investments worth $17 billion in 2014. The insurer, who also wrote 136 new policies, a 22% increase from 2013 with an increased underwriting stability, has renewed policies constitute 80% of its existing portfolio. The company attributes this growth to high demand for its products, driven by growth in infrastructural development in its member countries.
Decided to deliver all their countries to ATI.
In the past, the focus of ATI was to ensure foreign investors who were coming with big money into all 10 member countries. Over the last 3 years, we have started to work more and more with local companies, ensuring domestic and regional risks.
All right, that's KTN's business news. We thank you for watching, and I'll leave you with the financial market reports.
Welcome back. You're watching KTN Prime. Many thanks for staying with us. Let's switch gears, shall we? Let me hand you over to Lynn Washira, who is standing by with the latest in sports. And Lynn, I understand you have the latest from Zurich, Switzerland.
Oh yes, you're right, and of course that's the story that shapes tonight's bulletin, where the weight of corrupt dealings at the House of the World Football Governing Body FIFA has floored its president Sepp Blatter. Blatter announced this evening that he's going to resign less than a week after he was elected into office. The 79-year-old Swiss announced in Zurich that an extraordinary FIFA Congress will be convened to elect a new president. Blatter defeated Prince Ali of Jordan during the polls last week. FIFA has been at the epicenter of corruption claims that resulted in the arrest of 7 senior officials. FIFA was rocked last week by arrest on charges of wire fraud and money laundering as part of a U.S. prosecution that also indicted 14 people. A separate criminal investigation by Swiss authorities into how the 2018 and 2022 World Cups were allocated is also underway.
I promise you, in the end of my term, I will give this FIFA to my successor in a very, very strong position, a robust FIFA and a good FIFA. We have to work together.
And well, back home, Carl Flash Tundo, Quentin Michel, Ian Duncan and Alyssa Kavanagh will face off this weekend at the KCB Voi rally in an event that will have the highest number of Proton 2000 models. Also among the star attractions in this Saturday's race will be former Britain and Finland rally champion Tapio Lokanen.
The fourth leg of the KCB Kenya National Rally is expected to spice the scenic Taita Taveta County this weekend. And with the current and expected heavy downpour, the action is expected to be energy-sapping affair. The Mombasa Motor Club organized KCB Voi Rally main action will revolve around Rukinga and Taita ranches, and the competitive stages will be tough for drivers and action-packed for spectators to enjoy.
As organizers, we've been sort of compelled to try and compact everything into Saturday. So the whole event will run on Saturday, including the spectator stages.
And we're very thrilled that it is going to Voi. Voi is a very scenic part of the country. And
Voi Rally has attracted a star-studded entry featuring Kenya National Rally Championship current leader Jasprit Chat, who also topped the FIA African Rally Championships, the ARC. Also expected to spice up the occasion are youngsters Manvir Baryan and Rajbil Rai, both entering the R5 Spec Ford Fiestas, which first competed on Kenyan soil in the season opening Kisumu Rally. And the drivers will be high on speed in search for good results.
It is fast over there. We've tampered a bit with our gearbox and other things that we need to adjust so it can be a little bit quicker this time.
The designated spectator stage will bring her rising speeds, and spectators will not be charged to witness the action on the private farms. But as always, safety to all will come first.
Due to safety and controlling of the route, you will be required to park your cars, the safe parking, the security arranged, and then walk to the stage.
This weekend action in Voi will give rally enthusiasts a chance to watch rally cars and wildlife side by side as they explore the beautiful coastal scenery. Moses Wahesi, KTN Sports.
The Lewa Conservancy has for the past 15 years played host to the annual Safaricom Lewa Marathon that enters its 16th edition this year. Most, if not all, the participants come from other parts of the country, with a handful of others coming in as foreign tourists. The locals have, however, taken keen interest to field a strong team this year. I'm just back from the Conservancy, where we witnessed a trials exercise to pick the region's representatives. Over 1,000 runners from different countries have for the past 15 years gotten a rare opportunity to run through some of East Africa's most beautiful scenery, the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. This has been home to the annual Safaricom Lewa Marathon, whose 16th edition takes place on the 27th of this month. The Conservancy works closely with its neighbors to ensure that the conservation of wildlife goes hand in hand with community development. Among the 1,400 runners expected to take part in this year's Lewa Marathon will be 7 runners from Matunda, one of the communities living around the Conservancy. To them, taking part in the marathon is more than just running in the wilds. The Matunda community is one of the beneficiaries from the proceeds collected in the annual event. Those residing around the Conservancy have been sending a team to take part in the marathon. The Matunda community has been allocated just 7 slots for the 16th edition of the marathon. Today, a section of the community is taking time out of their farms to take part in the final leg of the trials to pick the final team. Proper running shoes and gear is not a necessity. Speed and endurance is all that is required. Eventually, a team of 10 finalists from across all the age groups take off for a 10 kilometers run, all of them eyeing one of the 7 slots up for grabs. The selection criteria is simple. The first 7 athletes across the line make the team. The high altitude, a perfect test for who is the fittest. One by one, they maneuver the tough terrain and only the best make the team. Here, age is just but a number and expectations largely vary from a competitor to the other.
Naenda kukimbia alafu nipate chance ya kwenda kulewa.
Leo ilikuwa kali sana. Lakini Mungu atanisaidia tu ili niweze kukimbia ile marathon ya leo.
Really motivated for today win, and I know that when I get there I gonna be part of the best.
Not far from Matunda and the larger Lewa Conservancy is Elsa Primary and Secondary School, one of the schools that has benefited from the Safaricom Lewa Marathon Trust Fund. The school has already selected its team for this year's event. Elsa Primary School is among 19 schools drawn from around the Lewa Conservancy, as well as the larger Isiolo County that is set to participate in this year's Safaricom Lewa Marathon. And the school does not only want to participate but to put up a good show, and it's for this reason that it's preparing a strong team. The 14-athlete team is currently making use of their break time from class to keep their muscles engaged ahead of the event that is just under a month away.
Kama sasa mimi mtoto wa shule, naona ya kwamba mbio inasaidia sana kwa watu wengine. Tumeona wengi wamepata pesa nyingi, wamejenga magorofa juu ya kukimbia.
Sometimes ukikimbia unaweza win, unapewa zawadi yenye hata inaweza kusaidia katika masomo.
When we go for athletics, that is how we select those people who have done well in athletics. They are the same people whom we end up training for the marathon.
Having been started to cater for the Kenya Wildlife Service employees' children's educational needs, Elsa Primary partnership with the Lewa Conservancy is just one of the ways the Conservancy is using the annual marathon to initiate and promote community-driven conservation programs which allow the people to view wildlife as an asset and not a liability. And well, that's how we wrap up tonight's edition of KTN Sports. I'm Lynn Washira. Be sure to join me tomorrow, same time, same place, for another comprehensive bulletin. Have a good night.
KTN weather in association with Mortein Dew.
Mama has Mortein Dew, which makes mosquitoes go away and not come back the whole night. So you get a peaceful night's sleep all night long.
Mortein Dew. A peaceful night is a Mortein Dew night.
So should the Garissa University College be reopened for those who are willing to go back? That was our big question tonight on KTN Prime.
And that is the big discussion that has been ongoing, especially on social media. Daniel Fundi says, we cannot kill our dreams out of fear. It's insecure everywhere.
Mohammed Dida says, closing the university was emotional act devoid of logic. Opening won't worsen security any further, just as closure did not improve it.
And Sharon is skeptical. She says, no, it should not be open. This is just stage managing by some individuals.
Okay, the poll results are right there on your screen. Ali Adwal says, reopening the institution is the only way we can come out stronger and resolute against the terrorists.
Michael Kononia says, why the rush? Are we so insensitive to the horror and trauma many families are going through?
Finally, at Dan Frankie says, we cannot kill our dreams out of fear. It is insecure everywhere, even at Parliament buildings.
Yeah, those are your thoughts, your SMSs and tweets. Many thanks for participating in our discussion tonight.
Indeed, have a good night. Sleep well. I'm Lindo Gutu. We'll see you tomorrow.
I'm Ben Kitili. Good night from the KTN News Center.